just for my benefit, I'm just curious on, will these professional services, are they be selected on qualifications or merely cost?
No, we don't have to, these don't have to be for cost.
Well, I'm only speaking from the side of construction and engineering, but I know professional services for public entities for that are legally required to pick a firm solely based on qualification, not cost.
Solely based on qualification, that's one of the requirements in your choosing. Cost, I believe, though, can still be a factor.
Well, it isn't after you've chosen that if you can't come to terms. It's first based on qualifications, though, isn't it?
That's my understanding.
Well, public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I like the idea of advertising, but you also need to put it in the paper. We have visiting attorneys that come here quite often, may be qualified. Let's open the door for those and have a special meeting and then go over there. Let's not be limited. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Right. I can totally disagree with what Rick said, because we should have a local attorney be here. If you guys was to consider two different, splitting that attorneys, I think it should be on a cost basis. Basically, the two attorneys should get more tax value than the present city attorney gets. Therefore, your total savings would be in benefits. And as far as a full-time attorney, I think that an RFP to the local, a written RFP to the local attorneys would be fine, and I'm sure that you would get some response. Thank you.
Anybody else? We're in the public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we go on to number one.
Wait, that must excuse myself. I'm sorry, my principal. I said it's back to school night. My principal would not let me stay, so you'll be fired. So
We're here.
no, I'm going back to school. It's back to school night. Currently.
How long have we gone after recess for 3 hours?
We'll be through by 7:30. Sorry, I tried.
Get a hall pass next time.
You're going back to school?
Actually, keeping terrible. Research that a table item should be first. Number 4 was also tabled.
Number 4, council member, city attorney Bruce, concerning possible action consideration to accept notice of lease termination on the Ellen Hayes parking lot lease from the Roman Catholic Church Bishop.
The lease agreement that we're dealing with here was created in 1990. It was a 10-year lease. It expired in 2000. I don't know if that lease was renewed in 2000 for another 10 years. I can tell you that I don't recall this ever being presented to the council for a renewal in 2010. So I don't know that we even have a lease currently with them. But I know that they are selling the property and it has come up on a title search. They just want to cross every T and dot every I. And so they have requested, or they have provided us notice of termination. In reviewing the contract, there is no actual termination provision with the exception under the default provision. It does indicate that the lessor, which would be the Roman Catholic Diocese, can provide or can provide a 15-day notice of termination. So if there are any if the city has any interest in this lease at all, I believe that based on that the Catholic Diocese has provided us the proper notice to terminate that. I can tell you that there, according to the agreement that was entered into in 1990, the city did have some obligations to essentially create that parking lot. It does appear, however, that for all the supplies and things like that, that those came from the Roman Catholic Church, because as items were spent for paving and things like that, the contract would indicate that those bills could be submitted as so long as it was verified they had a special account set up through one of the local banks, and as those items were spent, then the city was able to provide bills to the Roman Catholic Church, and then they paid those bills. So my guess is that the city provided the labor for that, and the Roman Catholic Church more than likely provided the funds for any materials involved in doing that. But regardless of how that went, the city's right to get any kind of reimbursement if there ever was one. I don't believe there ever was one, but that would have expired in the year 2000. So, with that all said, even though I don't believe that we even currently have a lease, with the notice that the Roman Catholic Diocese has provided, or the Roman Catholic Bishop of Las Vegas has provided, I don't know that we've even got a right to say, no, we're not going to allow you to terminate this lease.
Kevin, you don't see any liability to the city with that. I would move that we accept this lease termination.
Public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, section 2.02 in regards to renewal says that you can do an additional 10-year period. It also goes down to section 3.1 in regards to what the yearly lease is. I want to know, is any of that paid? Then you would know whether or not you have an actual lease. There was a considerable amount of money from the taxpayer that went into that. I'm not aware of anything in reading the document that the city was ever reimbursed. So if by chance we did pay, and if by chance we're in that third 10-year period, we need to resolve that issue. Were the fees paid? It's only taxpayers' money.
I can respond to that if you'd like, Mayor. Section 2.02 that you addressed there actually says this lease may be renewed for an additional 10-year period upon the mutual consent of lessor and lessee. I know it did not come in front of the council in 2010. I was here then, and we've never had a discussion about that. Furthermore,
Keep going.
yep, I'm looking for the section that talked about reimbursement.
3.01.
No, that's not the section.
Were the fees paid?
$1
Let's
a
find
year
out.
is what the lease was required.
$1 a year. Beer money. Beer.
Turn that there.
She agreed to $1 a year.
This one's too small. Article 10 on page 10.01 talks about compensation for improvements. There is a creation of parking lot committee. The lessor has heretofore, the lessor is the Catholic Church, has heretofore initiated the creation of a parking lot committee which has solicited and received funds from the general public for the purpose of paying for the costs of the improvements as set forth above. Lessee shall not be obligated to construct the improvements until such time there are funds on deposit in the Hayes parking lot account at Security Pacific Bank, Ely, Nevada. All funds shall be deposited in said account prior to construction of each phase set forth above. Lessee shall provide appropriate vouchers to lessor, who in turn shall cause prompt payment to be made therefor. That's apparently how that parking lot was filled, with funds solicited by the Catholic Church for the creation of that.
fees paid?
You're not going to pay.
Where are the fees paid?
I don't know.
We need to find out.
I'll do everything I can.
You're looking at section 102.
Maybe. Anybody else for public comment? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
I just was told I am a member of the Catholic Church. Shouldn't be one. That's my
My grandchildren. Okay. Okay, there we go. Number 5, council and Westland discussion, possible action, consideration, disposition of approximately 13,000 square feet of city property lying south of Mountain River Power in Norway Station. Kevin Briggs called, Kevin Robinson called me yesterday and said they would like to have somebody down here that is more familiar with that, and everybody's out of town. So they couldn't make it for some reason or another. So he asked me if I could relate to you guys that you would like to know if you could table this because I think there's representatives from now we're going to here to be part of the discussion. Does that mean Barbara?
I certainly think we can table it, but I think we should proceed as though we're going to do something with it other than just let it sit there. We have given Mount Wheeler easement across it to use on a temporary basis, and I think we need to decide what we're going to do with this property. If we wanted to sell it, I think we're going to have to do an appraisal, help me out, Kevin. The lot is 13,278 square feet, more or less, so it's certainly large enough to build on. I'm a little confused, and I would have to defer to the city engineer on this. It appears that there was a parcel number 01474-32 that lies on both sides of Winter Road, so there may have been a larger lot that got bisected when Winter Road was built. I don't know. My concern is what we're going to do with that portion that lies on the north side of Winter Road, because that's where the easement is right now. And so I would hope that even though we might not make a decision on this tonight, that we can begin the process of getting this property appraised, identified and appraised.
Actually, when there's a motion to table according to the Robert's Rules of Order, that supersedes all of the discussion, and the discussion should be about the motion to table.
Ready? Ready to motion to table? Second. No second? No second.
Douglas, I move to begin the process of identifying and valuing this property. I think we need to have it surveyed and appraised so that if we want to, we can sell it. We certainly would need to have this information to establish if we want to keep providing an easement to Mount Wheeler Power. That is something of value to the community. I think we need to know what we're giving up and what our liabilities are from having that across our property. So
That's a big motion, but I'll say.
my motion is to, my motion is to begin the survey and appraisal of APN 01-474-32.
Any public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like you to proceed on this also, but I also would like a copy of that. Marty, there's nothing in your packet, so I wasn't sure what you were referring to. Also, I don't recall you guys giving free access to that property without some kind of enumeration. I've asked numerous times, you could have given me an answer, didn't do it. Anyone else would have gotten something for the use of their property.
May I address? We did allow Mount Wheeler, sort of after the fact, their request to move across this property, but it's only on a temporary basis.
Initially, yes, but you could have addressed they also could have addressed their access. Prior to putting that curb gutter and sidewalk, they didn't choose to do that.
They realized they made a mistake. They want their access in a different spot.
They should have put it in a different spot and not encumbered the
That's
public.
really not part of it.
Should I have public comment?
Yeah, Marty, you may consider reamending your motion, if I suggest, to include the other APN number, which is also your parcel. So to include both of them, because when it all said and done, any survey we do would probably cover both those APN numbers.
So you would include APN 01-474-30 also.
Yes, I would include that in the motion.
I would amend my motion.
Yeah, I'm for that.
I would amend my motion to include APN 01-474-30.
Okay. All in favor, say any other public comment? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 6, Councilman Thunderstone, discussion of the water consideration of possible. Parker Street water. Yeah, but I gotta back that up, we gotta do the. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back to being new business for number 1, Councilman Thunderstone, discussion of possible consideration to accept the proposal from Kevin Gray to perform criminal prosecution work for the city of Dilley as on a contract basis. Okay.
Number 3, makes 1 and 2 of the railroad.
Okay. We need to more than more.
Number 1 and number 2.
Second.
Second.
To the public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And number 2, Councilman Thunderstone, discussion of possible action, consideration of accepting the proposed vote for Richard Sears to perform administrative and civil legal duties for the city of Ely on a contract basis.
I move to enforce this.
Second.
Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On number 6, Councilman Thunderstone, discussion possible action and consideration possible defects in the Parker Street water project WP-4032-11 completed October 2011 and consideration of possible resolution. You got that?
I forgot I had this one. I'm sorry, Bruce has this one.
I put this on there.
Because I could.
Very good. We're going to pass the one to
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I only made a few copies of this, and I'm just going to review it very, very quickly, and perhaps we can make a decision. This is just a very quick history of the Parker Avenue Water Project. June 2011, City Engineer Dean Day submits his plans to the state, the NDEP. July 20th, NDEP approved his plans with minor notations. Bids for the project was solicited and subsequently opened on August 9th, 2011. Greg Brothers, $250,800, Carson Unlimited, $338,042, JCR, $353. Engineer's estimate was $299. On August 16th, 2011, Greg Brothers were allowed to withdraw their bid without forfeiture of their bid bond, and the bid was awarded to Carson Unlimited, less $31,800 paving requirement. On August 26th and November 17th, council approved an aggregate time extension of 4 weeks for this project. The project was completed on October 19th, 2011. June 8th, 2012, Dean Day resigned as the city engineer. November 30th, 2012, let me repeat that, November 30th, 2012, work on the Center Street project reveals deficiencies in the Parker Avenue project. December 21st, 2012, and February 4th, 2013, phone calls to Dean Day confirmed that no completion letter or as-built drawings for the Parker Avenue project were ever done. February 19th, 2013, Dean Day submits a letter of certification and as-built plans to the city and state. These documents confirm inadequate inspection and significant deviations from approved plans. March 14th, 2013, the council votes to take no steps toward filing an errors and omissions claim with the city's insurance carrier regarding this project. The next day, March 15th, 2013, council members received a March 13th letter from the NDEP that specifically denies special exceptions for deviation from the approved plans and advises the city to, quote, make appropriate plans for possible early replacement. My argument is that based on information that we did not have at the council meeting, this should be brought before the council again, because I think this is a classic case that should at the very least be submitted as a question to our insurance company. Is there a possibility that we can collect on an errors and omissions claim? Clearly, one of our employees made a mistake. Okay? The state has written us a letter that says we should plan for early replacement. I think at the very least, this council should ask the question of our insurance carrier, do we have grounds here for an errors and omissions claim? Instead of just saying, oh, everything's okay. It's a $300,000 project. Our city staff went to some length. We voted as a council to correct as much as we could deficiencies on Center Street before we began paving over it. And I'm sure Mr. Jenkins can probably speak to what the costs are to begin remediating some of the deficiencies, bringing them into line with state standards and the standards that D&D set out himself. So we've got some good basis for what our costs are already, and I would recommend that this council at least investigate the possibility of submitting an errors and omissions claim to our insurance carrier.
Motion?
I'd like to question, I don't know if it's appropriate, but EJ, would you be willing to answer your feelings on this?
Well, I think that there's a letter that was written that already said that your prior engineer said there were some things that weren't completed. That's all that's in on that. Some of that stuff is extremely shallow. I believe that you have some potential of freezing water lines. You got some concern. And Marty is correct. The state come back in and did mention in their letter that they did not grant them an exception to the things that they requested, but they did not do their state regulations. And so I do believe that I have not done anything further to obviously the water department did go out there.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Look at comparison of things. Based on what your engineer admitted, there's some things that are not correct. I would potentially, and this is exactly what I recommended last time when asked the same question, I would potentially look at seeing how bad it is. They were only available to come compile information of what transpired down there at valves, at locations that they could measure down from the surface. There was things that was mentioned in his letter that you're very shallow at this location, but the water line immediately dives deeper after those valves. You know, I don't know what information he has to substantiate what was said in there. I certainly was not involved in the project, so I'm not going to, I can't make, I can't try to understand why those decisions were made out there. But I think there's some ways that you can go out there and potentially investigate that without ripping the road up. There's some stuff out there, it's called ground penetrating radar. It's a special type of a survey where they basically go down there. I don't have specifications of how accurately it is, but it's very accurate. If you were to get these companies to do that, they would basically state in their proposal how accurate it is, but they can go down and they can accurately locate different utilities and stuff, being non-destructive, meaning we don't have to dig up a new street to come in here. They would be able to come down, trace that out there and say it's 5 feet deep here, it's 4 feet deep, it's 3 feet deep. And we'd be able to trace these things, and quite frankly, one would hope that what was stated in the letter, that does dive deeply down there quickly, that would, one would hope that is in fact the case.
Ron, you fixed some of the problems, or you went
I
down?
overseen.
I'm sorry?
I overseen the crew.
The city group
Yes.
went down and replaced or repaired, or what did you do?
We replaced.
Replaced.
We tapped in new saddles, deepened the laterals, and installed 5-foot meter pits.
I guess my question is, without you doing that work, was there a problem prior to you fixing it? Would it have been all right if you
No.
didn't go in and redo it?
No.
So there was definitely a problem that you had to repair.
Yes.
A month ago, you sent me some pictures of those. I really didn't know what the pictures were. So,
There is a report I've done. I still have reports to finish on each lateral that we replaced.
okay.
But the two that you've seen, those were part of the center.
I feel the city council has an obligation to the voters of Ely to make sure that they got the product that the city paid for, and by the letter from the state that says we need to make appropriate plans for possible early replacement, the state's telling us we didn't get the quality of project that we paid for. And all Marty's agenda item is asking the city council to approach our insurance carrier on our errors and omission policy, and that's to see if we have a claim to do any work on this. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say, what do you think about this project? We pay the insurance policy every year, so
Put out a motion there.
I move we send a claim to the city's insurance carrier on the errors and omission policy on this project.
Is it second?
Second.
Public comment?
I just want to ask Kevin a question. What if contractors and professional people carry bonds? Isn't it in case that their project isn't done right, that it's guaranteed that the cost of the project is taken care of? I used to carry bond for the gas company, and when I did work that they disagreed with, I hate it. I had to go back in and do it right. And the state of Nevada Contractors Board requires that you carry a bond, I believe requires that you carry a bond for the amount of the net worth of the project. So therefore, I don't even know if your local or your city insurance, errors and omissions, if it's paid for by insurance, is the right way to go. If there was a project done wrong, I got an idea that the bonding company should be who is contacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the city hired, or when they put out this bid, solicited bids, and the person that was given, or the entity, contractor, company, whatever you want to call them, were well qualified. They're not rookies. They didn't start as the first project. The city paid good money. The specifications, the minimum requirements were there in black and white. There were no questions. There were no objections. There were no concerns brought forth, and I didn't miss very many meetings. In fact, I don't think I missed any. At no time was the city notified about any problems. You paid good money. You deserve a good project. And the people living on Parker deserve their just due. If you look at projects, not projects, but leases that I've turned into you on Camden, 2, they were much deeper than the 4 or 5 feet. You compared them to 1 Bell Avenue, one on that little side street going from Bell to Orson. They were all 5 feet or better. And yet now we're not concerned because the people down in Central Lee may have no problem because it didn't freeze this year. No, we need accountability. We paid for a good project. We want our money's worth. This needs to be opened up, and you need to do the proper due diligence. I believe it was Summit Engineering, or a representative, brought concerns in regards to Mr. Day previous to this. Those were...
And you can't be talking about an employee, or even a former employee. He has every right to have a closed personnel session if it gets to his competency to perform his job. So we're not going to allow you to go there.
Okay, forget that bit. When you hire somebody, and they say they know what they're doing, and they have the so-called credentials, you have every right to expect performance. You didn't get that. Thank you.
Anybody else from public comment?
I'd like to comment just on a little bit about what Mr. Churchill said. He stated that these issues were not brought in front of the council. I disagree with that. I can recall specific reports that Mr. Day provided to the council talking about some of the difficulties that they had, some of the problems that they experienced underground there once they opened that up. I remember those being presented and discussed too with the city council. So it was presented to the city council at the time all that was going on.
I disagree. You also stated that you were a
right
friend.
to disagree, Mr. Texas, and that'll be it. Anybody else from public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go on to number 9, Councilman Sutherland, discussion, possible action, consideration to waive the dues adoption fees in the amount of $475, $25 per dog for the 19, only came out from 19.
Actually went up again. It's now 20.
You know, you got 19 for your dog farm and the one household at the White Pine County Sheriff's Office on August 8, 2013. Here we go.
Is Brenda and Todd. Mike Snyder? You know anything about this?
About the $19?
Well, about the payment. Basically, I guess what happened is I was out of town and I talked to Brenda. She told me she picked up $19. She called me when I was in Idaho, said that she went to the city town, picked up all $19, adopted them out.
Well, didn't adopt them yet. They're all in foster care right now because of the shape they're in.
Wait a minute. You
Or
adopted
adopted from the pound.
Yes,
Sorry,
you
yes.
adopted them from the pound.
Right.
Gave Mike Craycraft a check for the amount of the adoption
$475.
and asked Mike if she could post-date the check until she could come before the council and asked that we give her a break on it since she helped out the city. So I told her I would put it on the agenda and leave it up to the council.
And I would just like to say that we do this all the time. It just happens that it's 19 dogs this time. We've never done that many at one shot, but we've many times taken 7, 8 dogs at a pop, and we take them when we know about them, we take them when we can. And so this isn't anything new, and we've always paid the $25 adoption fee, but this was, this is a big amount. This can get a lot of those animals spayed and neutered, which the zoo pays all of those costs. We find homes for them. They're in foster care. We're providing food for them. It's however long it takes for these animals to get back into shape. They were a mess. They're fearful. They're biting. They're out of fear. A lot of them are coming around. 5 have already been spayed and or neutered. One was a pregnant female, had 4 puppies. So there is that would be my request to be reimbursed.
I came down today to the city council when Bruce, you were actually over there that day.
Yeah, I went there that day.
And I think everybody was shocked and appalled about what this person did to these animals. If you weren't, it was,
I do agree. Yeah, I do agree. This is very unusual that we pick up this many dogs at one time. Maybe everybody should know that the animal control building has 8 pens. So to get all the dogs in there, we were kind of cramped. There was 3 and 4 dogs in each pen, and we were not really equipped to handle that many dogs at one time. So it was great that Brenda came down and took the dogs.
And we did it in less than 24 hours,
Right.
and rounded them all up and got them into foster care and got the job done.
Any other discussion?
I've just got a question. Is this not a fee, the $25 adoption fee that you pass on when you find a party to adopt a dog?
No, there's so many costs involved. We charge a $50 adoption fee when they're adopted, but we end up paying the spay or neuter. We pay for all of their shots. We pay for boarding.
If they don't reimburse any of that.
If you want to include that in the $50, but our cost after these dogs particularly, and they're all coming around beautifully. I mean, they're not, the nipping and all that kind of stuff because they need time. That's all they need is time. And, it can take weeks before we're paying for all those costs as the weeks go by, whether it's boarding or their food or whatever needs they have. If they have any medical needs, we'll pay for that. So we get a $50 adoption fee when these animals are adopted, but that nowhere comes close to what we actually pay out. And nothing is good if it's free. So it's just a nominal fee we charge, just so people, and we get something back, and nothing close to what we put out. So.
I guess my question is, you said you charge $50. You charge $50 plus the spay and neuter fees. So you spend more than
absolutely.
You spend more than the $50. So you're not making money on dogs.
Ever, no.
Any other question?
I have a comment. I wanted the city council to work more closely with the zoo for years, and I think this is a step in that direction.
And I thank you for that. I meant to thank you coming up here. I am so encouraged by the interest in the animals of this town. Before the zoo came in, this place was deplorable in that it was negligence, derelict of duty, all things that not animal control, but just the animals. And we've gone through many animal control officers, and each one is different in how they handle it. I want to commend Todd. He's really very professional, good to work with, and I just thank you all for taking an interest finally. It's something whose time has come, and animals are very important in this town. It's good for the soul, it's good for the town, and we're making it work. We've made it work. Your euthanasia's gone down, the health of the animals, just the interest, everything. People are learning from us. We've got a very busy little business, not just the thrift store, but the animal part of it is busier than the thrift store is. So it's good.
I think what the zoo does is actually a benefit to the city. And then we don't have to have Todd spend time taking care of these animals, and finally helping them. It would be they're taking animals away from us.
I agree.
They run something like a motion.
I move we waive the fee, this is for $19 for the zoo.
Second.
Other comment?
See, I'm not gonna let you down, Mr. Mayor. You know, you folks have rules and regulations, and every time we turn around, we're right back where we started. There's always an exception. You gotta stop. At the last meeting, Brenda wanted to fine people $200-some. No. You have rules and regulations, and I feel for you. The individual who violated the law needs to pay for it all. Not the rest of the community to subsidize these mistakes. You've got to bring us accountability, folks. The taxpayer should not have to bear the burden every time we turn around. It isn't there's ignorance. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Give us accountability. I'm all for these animal lovers, but they know what the rules and regulations are. And you people have to put your foot down.
And you also have to enforce the law. And that's what the previous council has.
That's right. Collect the money from those who violate the law, not from the rest of us. Thank you.
Anybody else with public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very
I'll
much.
stand with that for a second. We got one more. Just one comment. Okay, number 10, Councilman Featherstone, Michael Irvin. Discussion possible action consideration to waive all future adoption fees for the zoo.
Once again, I was asked to put this on there, and I will say this one I don't agree with. I think that number 9, waiving the first fee of $475, I think it was great because we couldn't handle it ourselves. The owner of those dogs skip down in the middle of the night and can't be located. And when something like this happens, it does take the whole community to get together and take care of it. There's a lot of Brenda does a lot of good for the city, but I think that if she takes one dog at a time, we can't expect to let her not pay a fee and then charge the average person that goes in and takes one dog. If we get in a position that she's taking more dogs so that we have more than we can handle, she has the option to come before us and ask again each time to waive the fee. But to give her flat out no charge anytime, I'm not for that.
In light of the new enforcement of an old law about the mandatory spay and neuter when an animal is adopted from the zoo, I can agree with you on this as long as you enforce that law and make sure, because then that takes the load off of me, because hopefully there's not going to be as many animals for us to have to adopt from the pound.
Right.
So it's imperative that you enforce that law. You created it, it's there, and it's never been enforced. And as far as Mr. Chachis saying something about fining, I think what he was referring to was that when you license an animal, an incentive for getting them spayed and neutered is to have them pay the $10 license fee, and an incentive to have their animals spayed and neutered would be to charge a larger fee if they're not spayed and neutered. And it's not illegal, or it's not a law that they be mandatory spayed and neutered yet. I'll be working on that.
Yes, let me interrupt you. It is an ordinance that
It is if you adopt the animal from
if you
the
take the animal
pound.
from the pound, it's required to be spayed or neutered.
Right.
So your object is to make sure that every animal is spayed and neutered, and that's why you take so many in. If we require the public to do that, you won't have to do it as much, so we're kind of going to get to the same end result.
Right.
And so that's why.
Yeah, on this one, if as long as you enforce it, yeah.
Right, you have the right to come before us at any time when you take so many and say, look, this month I had to take 30 dogs. You have the right to come before us again.
Right.
But
I'm going to divorce.
I'll say.
Water.
I did. of this is directed to George, and I think everyone needs to realize that there's a difference between waiving something and having to pay something for it. On our last agenda item, we waived the, we didn't pay $475. We waived it, and that was because that saved us money and trouble. On 10, I would hope that we can still enforce strictly any penalty that is associated with a dog who ends up in the pound because his owner wasn't taken care of and comes to get it. Okay, there should be a punishment there, and we will collect that. And that's different than waiving the fee for the one who can't find the owner, or the owner won't come forward.
Hopefully in the future, we have donations coming in for a chipping program. So when an animal ends up at the pound, we'll know who the owner is.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
By that one, number 12, capital motion, discussion possible action, consider idea of solution to make the city shop located at 292
Gosh, I don't even remember. It prays for, help me out, Kevin. I was hoping Brad Christian was in the peak.
I think it was 140,
It was in that neighborhood.
either 120 or 140.
And I was going to say 130, but this is on here because I have a neighbor who is seriously interested in that building. But that building has some problems, one of which is it its own C2, and according to Brad Christensen, we cannot have a welding repair shop in that building, even though it was used as a city shop by the city. And I will disagree with Brad on that because as I read the C2 zone, it doesn't specifically say welding repair, but it does refer to repair shops. The reason this is on here is because we should be able to, let me just finish presenting the scenario. How can we expect a potential buyer to come in and say, hey, I want to buy this building from the city? And the first thing he hears is, well, if you want to use it in that manner as a shop, which it was before, you're going to have to pay $400 plus other fees to apply for variance with no guarantee that you're going to get the variance before he even considers buying it. I mean, no one would buy a building if he didn't know how he could use it. And I don't think anyone should be expected to pay for variance, especially when they don't know what the outcome is, and they're going to have to pay either way.
I do it all the time.
Well,
Yeah, that's real fun.
that's an injustice we're trying to correct. It seems like we should be able to take an action here that would at least specify for this case how this could be used. There are some other issues that need to be taken up for this particular property. It shares a wall with Tiffany Sweatich's insurance business there. For Tiffany to get into her basement, she has to go through a door into the city shop, down a stairwell, and then into his basement. This would certainly have to be clear. There might be some environmental concerns that would have to be taken care of. This is put here, and I'm sorry it's been such a long evening already, but I think we need to make some kind of arrangement, some consideration for giving a potential buyer an idea of what he can do with this building.
I talked to Tiffany, and she had an interest in buying that.
I know.
One time, and at the time, I'm not sure it would be enough to fill on the property. I said it might be, and that no matter the price, Tiffany, if you can talk to her about this, because we sold the BFA building under, I don't know, it was 266, I don't know, 266, and some other numbers after that. But if she come up with a proposal of what she's going to do with the property, and that means she's going to maybe hire people, it's going to be credit for their own taxpayers, she can offer what she thinks would be right, get her in the building. And I would relate that to her, because
we should be able to give him the assurance that it can be used as a welding repair shop without him going to the trouble of variance with no guarantee and the added expense in that process.
That I'm not sure because I can do that.
The problem with that, because in a manufacturing zone, welding repair shop or welding shop is specifically listed. If this were, for example, a city shop, which it wasn't, or just a regular shop, that is authorized because, like the city shop, welding was a very minute part of what they did in that shop. They did a lot of automobile repair, keeping the trucks running and things like that. I don't believe there was a whole lot of welding going on there. I'm sure there was some, but that was very incidental to the work that they were doing. The problem that I have with what you're proposing is the neighbors in that area certainly have a right, if there's going to be something that is not consistent with a C2 zone, which a welding shop is, because it's listed in the manufacturing zone, then the neighbors in that area have the right to receive notice and to come in and express either their assent or dissent from the proposed action.
I agree completely, but could not the city initiate that process so that it could hang a sign on that building that said this building can be used for the following?
So where do you limit that? I mean, that would be a difficult thing to do if you're just going to say this building can be used for a welding shop. But if you're going to, I guess you could change the zone to an M1 zone.
Well, to me, it's just a matter of interpretation of the zoning regulations. But you see my point. The point is that a potential buyer has approached the city and he's been told, well, you need to get a variance and that's going to cost you $400+ and there's no guarantee that we're going to grant the variance. And that sends anybody down the road, especially when we're talking about essentially a full price offer, because for that kind of money, he accurately states he can get land out of the county and build a shop.
I got a question. Could he buy the building on contingency that he gets that?
That variance.
That variance, and if not, his money's refundable. That way, he'd have a guarantee that he could buy the building, and if it doesn't pass the council, then he gets his money back. That way, he's not losing any money, and the city's not investing money. We can find out if the neighbors are going to complain before he invests the money.
But I think we need to do some, we have a piece of property that has been for sale for a while, and nobody's having interest in it. We need to do something to make that property so we can sell it and get our money out of it. It's no good to us. Let's sell it and get it on the tax rolls and let somebody operate on it.
I agree. And if we have a buyer that's apprehensive of buying it because he might not get to use it for what he uses it for, can we make that determination before he buys it? If we go ahead and start the process of rezoning it and it fails, like Tiffany doesn't want it done, then
I don't know that you want to look at doing rezoning there. You would probably want to go through the variance process.
right. But
The only problem with that is if you do it for this case, you need to do it for everybody. We're in a similar situation.
And buying a city
at
property.
buying city property, how much property do we have for sale that somebody wanted that's sitting around? How long did the Bank of America building sit? You know, that we ended up selling it for next to nothing because of all the restrictions. I know there's a couple, or at least one offer that was rejected, or at least I'm told.
Or more.
Do any restrictions.
That was repairs on Bank of America. That was huge.
I think we need to do whatever we can to sell the building. So, maybe you have a suggestion, Kevin, or
I've given you my counsel. Just be careful because you're opening the door. It's up to you guys.
Can the city initiate its own variance application
I suppose it could.
on behalf of any future buyer?
Well,
in the private sector, there's contingencies on the sale that happen all the time. I don't see why the city can't take a contingency.
we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
You're talking about something different.
Yes, yes, that's true. And just simplify it. I like Bruce's idea of contingency. If someone came to us with an offer, hey, I want to use this building for a welding shop, I'm willing to pay this much money for it. We should be able to accept that offer contingent on his obtaining variance to use it for that purpose.
And I certainly don't have any issue with that. The only issue that I have with that is if the variance is not granted, that you're going to reimburse this money. Because I think that's where the door gets open for it.
So isn't that what happens in the private sector? No? On contingency? Or buy a house on contingency of something and it doesn't happen.
You know, then you get your money back.
You get your money back.
Get whatever you put down. And I don't see why we couldn't take an offer that's contingent upon the variance being granted by the city. We're talking a $400 variance against, well, say it's $1,000, $2,000, and we're trying to sell some property that's worth over $100,000. So if we don't do anything, we're still going to be stuck with a piece of property that we're getting zero tax dollars on. We're probably paying a little bit of dollars on our insurance policy. I think we need to do something.
I do too.
I do too.
Make a motion.
You do it, Marty. Do
We're
it.
burning daylight here, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, you got plenty of.
Bruce, you worded it better than I did. How would we say this? I move that we authorize selling the city shops at 296 East 11th with a contingency that if it cannot be granted a variance to be used as a welding shop, that the cost of the variance be refunded.
How's that sound?
I think you leave the welding off of it because maybe somebody else might.
Yeah, maybe somebody else might want to think about it.
Yeah, okay. Leave the welding out of it. Let the buyer determine what variance he wants to pursue.
Or if they
Yeah,
get
if they need.
Jennifer's that good?
Okay, so the motion would be to authorize selling the city shop at 296 East 11th with the contingency that if it cannot be granted a variance, that the cost for the variance will be refunded.
I'll second that.
Public comment.
Come on, huh? George, you were trying to sit up front.
Yeah, I'm going to. I think this is
Or a lot
good.
faster, George.
I'm glad to see that something's finally moving here. That's all.
Walk faster, talk faster.
Well, you guys should move a little faster.
That was your comment?
I got more. I can't say it in public.
Any other public comment? All right, that says all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And we'll go on the report, starting with King Hansen, and we'll wait for him to get back.
Nothing to report at this time.
Lee?
At the EDC meeting the other day, everybody was excited about the new city council and how they're looking forward to cooperating more with us. They're very, very serious about cleaning up the city and the county. And it sounds like they're going to actively pursue some of these things, like the dumpy residences, the houses that have been repoed, and banks aren't doing anything with them, and so on. So I think we should start doing our part in sending out our letters to people that have, I guess, less than standard residences. What's that? Yeah.
Do we need, how do we send out a RFP for the terms?